okay, I mean, we're in the last sort of 50 minutes here. Tell us a little bit more about the trauma embodied yoga then. So is it just what we've been talking about? Is it a system? Do you train people in it? Tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of that.
Okay, so I've come together with a friend called Kerry Morgan, who has got slightly different background than me. She has been teaching yoga for about 18 years. She trained with Simon Law and
Oh,
trained
yeah.
with other professionals. And she's done quite a lot. She's a trained counselor, and she's also trained in different modalities, just like me. She's done quite a lot of work in prisons. So in a sense, we worked with similar client groups, but our background is slightly different. So it was really lovely to come with somebody who views this process of healing as a multi-layered thing. So not just using yoga, but also using other modalities to help people on their journey to self-regulate and really meeting somebody where they are at. And doing it in in social care, we work a lot in biopsychosocial model, and so bringing the spiritual aspect to it as well, and working in the needs-led way. So meeting the client, the student, in a way that where they are at, and helping them from that space, rather than having a very rigid model of how to do that. So we bring in, at the moment, what we're doing is we accredited a course with Yoga Alliance UK professionals. It's a 4-day course, 62 hours. And we taking people through theoretical stuff, understanding what trauma is, the theories around it, but also having practical skills to work with people in the classes. So
Just
how do you recognize?
I'm going to jump in. If people are interested in this, the website is anatai.co.uk, A-N for November, ETAI.co.uk. If you
That's
want
right, yeah.
check that out. And that's you and your co-trainer there. We have 25 Facebook friends in common with your co-trainer. I should probably contact her at some point.
Okay.
And tell us about the practical skills. What? Because the theory I think people kind of get, but
Yeah.
often I get like yoga teachers, they learn, they go, okay, get it, overwhelm, okay, hyperarousal, okay, so what, kind of thing, you know. That's the bit I'm curious about.
Exactly, and that's how we coming from the same perspective. It's like, so what? So you can buy a book, read about it, understand it on a mental level, but actually, how do you bring it into your class? How do you interact with your students in a way that is actually working for you and for them? So bringing the practical applications of mindfulness, of metta bhavana, co-regulation, all those practices like centering and orienting. So some stuff from somatic experiencing, some of the stuff that I really love. But also working with other things like the sound. You know, the sound can be extremely soothing and extremely grounding. And how do you use the practices that really allow you to regulate rather than going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and I am so wired and everything is which I've seen in some of the classes happening as well, and people get really, you can see it in their bodies how stressed out they become. So really those practical skills, and actually how it's, you know, having time to reflect. How do you teach as a yoga teacher right now? How can you teach in a slightly different way? How can you create something that actually would work for you and the client group that you are working with? Because different client groups have different needs. If I go and work in a crisis center or in prison, I have to bring different skills to when I work with over 60 group of ladies.
And this is intermediate and advanced level embodiment teaching of all kinds. You know, I'm just marking an exam of one of my students today, embodied coaching exam, that from our course, embodied facilitator course, and she sent me this exam. I'm looking at it, and that's one of the things I'm looking for. Like, is she adapting? Yeah. Right? Because you can't teach business people like they were doctors, or doctors like they were yogis, or you just can't, right?
Exactly.
This is basic, and sometimes I see even very famous teachers just sort of rattle off their class. I'm like, you're on Zoom now. It's different.
Mm.
You're not in a yoga festival or a yoga class with five. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
real different. I'm always surprised when that skill's missing, but it seems to me not even advanced, like intermediate and above should have that skill really.
Yeah.
Practical tips. So practical things for yoga teachers. Tell me a bit more, the nuts and bolts of things that you teach.
Mm.
Was that a secret?
No, not at all. I think it's a lot of it is in what I already said. It's quite a lot of it is common sense. That creating a sense of safety, allowing people to have a choice. If you're doing a yoga pose, giving people a choice and giving people modifications, reminding people to breathe, reminding people to look around. You know, one of the things that I see quite a lot in yoga classes is that people close their eyes when they're standing up in a standing poses. Some people can do that, but that's usually a sign that somebody just got lost within somewhere there. They're not fully grounded, not fully present in the moment, and they could, you know, in a worst case scenario, they could tip over. So really reminding people to come back within the body, feeling the sensation of the feet steady on the ground, every so often shaking everything off to take that tension around and have a bit of joy, have a bit of fun, reminding people to notice, you know, is it pleasurable or are you straining really,
That's a
really
funny one, isn't it?
badly?
Are you having a nice time? Are you
Well,
enjoying yourself?
well, why not? Yoga should be fun. You're coming in to stretch, to move, to feel alive. If you're just working really hard, pushing and straining, then you know,
Not
something's
so much
out of
fun.
balance there.
Okay, well, is anything I haven't asked you about that you'd love to speak about before we sort of move towards wrap up here? Is anything you thought, oh, that's so key to what I do that we haven't touched
Well,
on?
yeah, one last thing, I guess, it's the focusing, the embodied
Cool.
listening. And that's something that I've been practicing formally for the last couple of years. So I've come across it a few years back. I read a book and I practiced it on my own. But I've done the modular training, so over the whole year, 5 modules, and I'm now doing the practitioner training. And that is a completely life-changing practice. And that completely changed how I am and how I work with my clients. So one of the things that I hear a lot when I work with people, especially on a one-to-one basis, is that people say, I know all of this stuff. I understand all of this, but I'm still doing the same stuff and I don't know what's happening. I don't understand why I can't change it, because I understand that it comes from my mother. I understand that it's my reaction. I understand that something else happened that influences my behavior, but I can't change it. And often what it means is that people are coming from the level of the mind, the
Sure, it's a
logical
cognitive
mind.
understanding, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
understand.
confusing for
And
people that if I understand something, surely that's enough. It's all about the
yeah,
brain, right? It's all about, you know, and it's a little bit like, okay, you might have to go deeper. You might have to grok it. You might have to have a really strong experience there, you know, like, I do focusing fairly regularly, and I recently, you know, I sort of cognitively got with my therapist that something was coming from like a Irish cultural background from where I come from, and then I was like, okay, get it. I'm working too hard because you know I'm Irish, and my grandparents were peasants, and they had to work really hard. And okay, that makes sense, but nothing changed in my own life. And then it's like I did a focusing session where I really like felt into how it was to be that like Irish peasant side of me that was scared to not have enough food and had to toil the land really hard. And it was like, wow. And it was deep. And then after that, my behavior started changing. But it wasn't the same as cognitive knowing. It was a deeper level of feeling like, and it took like 30, 40 minutes to get there. You know, it was a slow, deep feeling into. It wasn't like this sort of conversation we're having today.
yeah, and that's the magic of that form of embodied listening. It's not just awareness. You can be aware of it, you can understand it on the logical mind, but you might not be able to actually change it unless you connect with the part of you that is responsible for that. And it means sitting a lot with the unknown, something that is not clear, something that is quite vague, feeling it in the body, and actually being quite open and curious to it. and holding it all within the compassionate presence. And for myself, I am starting to run yoga teacher trainings, the foundational teacher trainings from October. And that is going to be a vital part of the training, to actually teach those fledgling yoga teachers those skills of embodied listening.
Nice addition to the work, yeah, because it's a different thing than just feel your feet on the ground, isn't it? It's a different level.
Yeah, and that practice of working with felt senses is very much used now in somatic experiencing work, working with trauma, and in other therapeutic approaches. And it doesn't have to be therapy based. Originally it wasn't when it came out, but it's the part that makes the therapy successful in the end.
Okay, Anita, this has been fun. It's been nice to get to know you a little bit. I think we've got lots in common. I hope I'll see you in other things we do with the community, the COVID Calm, or the conference and other things like that. In terms of finding out more about you, that website again is AN for November, ETAI.co.uk. And right. You can see the trauma trainings. You've got an event in October, haven't you? Which I think is the first weekend of the trauma training is in October. So we'll make sure we get it out. Well, we'll definitely get it out before then. Cool. And do you have a kind of closing message about the body? Anything you want to close with? A message for our Polish listeners? Probably never heard Polish on this podcast before.
Just that from my own experience and working with other people, is that your body is your gateway to wisdom. And if you only bring curiosity, openness, and kindness to your relationship with your body, it can profoundly change your life.
Dziękuję bardzo. Thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for your time.